Maybe.
We don't know.
It's just an idea.
What,
you don't have any empirical evidence to support this
Not
one way
yet.
or another?
Not yet. I tried to get Dr. John to do some research, but he told me I was crazy. So
No.
What can you do? So one thing she also said is how real everything was she was experiencing, right? Like it was the most real thing she's ever experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to the next article.
Oh, the next article.
Which Beth is actually going to read for us.
So this article is called Afterlife Feels Even More Real, researcher says. And it's by Ben Brumfield from CNN. If your hospital is in Belgium, Dr. Stephen Lauries may pay you a visit, interested to hear what you remember from your near-death experience. He tells you that many people have gone down this road before you and that you can trust him with your experience. Patients in intensive care are scared to tell their stories, he said. They are afraid people won't take them seriously, especially doctors and scientists. Lauries heads the Coma Science Group at the University Hospital in the city of Liège. He and his colleagues published a scientific study on near-death experiences late last month. Near-death experiences feel, quote, even more real than real, end quote, Lauries said. It's this sparkling clarity and living color of the experience, which many have when they lose consciousness, that he and his team have researched. But he doesn't think it comes from a spirit world. Lauries is a scientist, he emphasizes. He prefers not to mix that with religion.
Real fast. This guy's kind of a jerk.
Why?
Because he's telling people, he's like, well, people don't like to talk about it because they're afraid no one's going to believe them or think like they're making it up or whatever. And he's like, no, you can trust me. It happens a lot. Let's talk about it. And he's like, but I don't believe any of them.
Well, I haven't gotten that deep into it yet, but I don't get the sense so far that he's saying he doesn't believe in them. He's saying that he's a scientist, but he's not believing in spirits and in ghosts.
That's my point. He's saying people aren't going to believe it. He's saying, I don't believe it. Like, I don't believe in spirits. I don't believe in the afterlife. Well, but tell me about your afterlife experience that you're afraid to tell people because you don't think anyone's going to believe them.
Well, he's saying, tell me what you remember from your near-death experience. I think he's trying to look at it from a scientific point of view. The hell, you give me the article to read that...
What? No, it's just an article. I'm saying that I don't agree with him being like, no, tell me. Okay. I won't judge you. But you're wrong. You see what I'm saying?
Oh. I won't judge you, but I don't believe you?
Yeah. Oh. He's like, well, people don't want to tell me because they won't think, anyone believes them. But I'm like, no, come on, tell me.
Even though I don't believe you?
I don't believe you, though.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
Okay, let's see where it goes. His hypothesis is that near-death experiences originate in human physiology. It is this dysfunctional brain that produces these phenomena, he said. Scientific research on people having near-death experiences is tough because the exact instant that they occur is unknown, making them nearly impossible to observe, Lauries said. So, just out of curiosity, I want to point out that they had the guy from our first clip all hooked up to the monitors, and so in that 45 minutes, they definitely could have seen where that near-death happened, as well as the guy from the first article, who reviewed his own brain charts. So...
Yes, but I think what he's saying is those people in that room aren't there to study near-death experiences. So I think what he's saying is he would like to be observing it as the person studying it.
Okay. It would also be cruel to run brain scans on someone who was possibly facing the moment of death. Yeah, that would be slightly insensitive.
Yeah.
So Lauries and his team studied the near-death memories of people who survived, in particular those of coma patients, with the help of a psychological examination. The Memory Characteristics Questionnaire tests for sensory and emotional details of recollections and how people relive them in space and time. In other words, it gauges how present, intense, and real a memory is. They compared near-death experiences with other memories of intense real-life events like marriages and births, but also with memories of dreams and thoughts, things that did not occur in physical reality. The researchers paralleled new memories with old ones, and they compared the patients who had near-death experiences with groups of others who didn't. Memories of important real-life events are more intense than those of dreams or thoughts, Laurie said. If you use this questionnaire, if the memory is real, it's richer, and if the memory is recent, it's richer, he said. The coma scientists weren't expecting what the tests revealed. To our surprise, near-death experiences were much richer than any imagined event or any real event of these coma survivors, Laurie reported. The memories of these experiences beat all other memories, hands down, for their vivid sense of reality. The difference was so vast, he said, with a sense of astonishment. Even if the patient had the experience a long time ago, its memory was as rich as though it was yesterday, Laurie said. Sometimes it's hard for them, the patients, to find words to explain it. Nevertheless, a near-death experience can make a convert of a skeptic. Dr. Eben Alexander is a well-known case of an agnostic scientist who became convinced of the existence of the spiritual. He has often shared his story in television interviews with journalists, and he expressed his views in lectures and in books and video presentations, which he sells on his website. So it's funny, we have a cousin who doesn't listen to this podcast, and every time I tell him that we do this ghost hunting podcast, he says the same thing. He goes, as soon as somebody mentions paranormal anything, I put my hand on my wallet because they're just trying to take my money.
What cousin?
Ted.
We don't have a cousin named Ted.
We do have a cousin named Ted.
No, we don't.
Your mom does.
Oh, that's not the same, but
it is.
Okay.
We're all cousins.
Okay.
It's like Aunt Linda's our aunt, even though she's not. I'm
Okay.
not going to walk around saying great Aunt Linda. That sounds
I do.
silly.
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
They're all aunts. They're all cousins.
Okay.
Yeah. So as soon as I see that people, I certainly kind of can agree with Ted on that point. I mean, you and I aren't looking for any money to do this podcast, right?
I just want a donut hole.
Possibly some tickets to something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the idea that he's selling them in books and video presentations on his website, like the lady that we saw from the kayak,
Mm-hmm.
like she's just telling her story. Did she have a book?
Mm-hmm.
She had a book. She's selling her book.
Mm-hmm.
What was the other one that we saw?
I don't see anything wrong with that, though.
Oh, okay.
As
An entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur, I see nothing wrong with either of those things.
Okay.
I think there's a problem if you're selling it for an exorbitant amount of money. I think that's a problem. But I don't see it any different than selling consulting or selling cooking classes or anything.
Well, at least when you're doing a consulting thing or
Mm-hmm.
cooking classes, you're teaching someone how to do something.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that selling the story of your near-death experience is giving almost like a false hope to people.
I don't think so. I don't think they believe it's a false hope. I think if they believe it's a false hope, that's a problem, but I don't think they do. Okay. I don't think a lot of them do.
Okay.
I don't think it's any different than Steve Jobs selling a book about how he became successful.
Well, that's just his life story.
Yeah, that's my point.
The look I just got.
There we go. That's the point.
All right.
That's what they're selling.
Back to the article. Alexander, a neurosurgeon, according to his autobiography, has described his experience in the same terms as the Belgian researchers: hyperreality and too real to be real. In the beginning, he tried to interpret his experience as a brain function, he wrote on his website, but he became increasingly spiritual. He has come to the conclusion that people are reincarnated. Alexander says his existence could not have been a hallucination because the parts of the brain necessary to produce his experiences were basically dead when he had them. I'd be curious what the difference between dead and basically dead are. Laurie strongly disagrees. There is no evidence there can be conscious experience without brain activity, he said. Lying in your hospital bed, you have become a true believer, and you are happier for it. But your brain never died, the doctor tells you. You were in a coma. Perhaps your heart stopped for a while. Maybe it didn't. But that's not even necessary to have an out-of-body experience. Many individuals having had near-death experiences were not physically in danger of death, suggesting that the perception on its own of the risk of death seems to be important in eliciting near-death experiences, the study said. It's enough just to think you're dying to have one. The American Psychological Association concurs. It defines near-death experiences as, quote, profound psychological events with transcendental and mystical elements typically occurring to individuals close to death or in situations of intense physical or emotional danger, end quote. In the case of coma patients, the brain producing the near-death experience may be functioning minimally, but it is still alive, Laurie's hypothesized. He said that one can stimulate certain parts of the brain to produce single elements of the experience. It's a vivid hallucination, Laurie's report surmises. It was a normal brain activity that produced their extraordinary perceptions. Though the results of his studies were marked and consistent, the Belgian research team has tested only a small number of patients so far, and it has not been able to scan brain images of patients having near-death experiences to get hard data on the hypothesis of the physiological nature of the experience. Laurie's research alone is not enough. He wants to see more scientists get involved. As a doctor, he feels it's the compassionate thing for them to do. It's high time for more hard science, Laurie said. A high percentage of his coma patients report having had near-death experiences, and he believes many of us go through these afterlife experiences when we die. Laurie doesn't want to speculate on the existence of heaven or hell, but he does say that only a small minority of near-death experiences are horrifying. Most of them are pleasant and uplifting. From his accounts, it sounds like more people go to heaven than to hell.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well written. Ben Brumfield from CNN.
Yeah, I liked that. I felt, going into this episode, it was very important to present both sides. I think we did.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with one side more than the other.
I can tell that you do.
Yeah. Because even that guy, he spends a lot of time studying it, and he was very real. He was like, I don't have a large sample study. Right? Things like that. But even the things he said, I'm like, you're just saying you don't believe it because you haven't found the evidence.
Right. But the fact that he's looking for the evidence to start with means that he probably has some inkling of belief deep down. Because why would you be looking for something that you don't believe exists? Like, people who don't believe Bigfoot exists don't go out looking for Bigfoot.
Right. I agree with that. I fully agree with that.
People who don't believe that there's an afterlife or a chance that there is this other level of consciousness, they don't go looking for it.
Right. Especially with that, I think more so than other things is you're already a doctor. There's so much undiscovered in the medical world.
Why would you spend your time on your
That's what I mean. Why? I don't know anyone. I don't know many people have had them, but I don't know of anyone who's had a near-death experience and it's destroyed their life. You know what I mean? I know people who have come close to dying and it has, but not people who have had these visions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So why would you, as a doctor and a scientist, be trying so hard to disprove something that seems to only be enriching and making people's lives better? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you happen to be a doctor or a wannabe doctor, and you also have a degree in, biochemistry and molecular biology, maybe you live in Myrtle Beach, and you want to let us know your thoughts on this, we would love to share them on the podcast.
Beth is talking about her sister, who doesn't listen to her podcast.
She does listen to our podcast when she drives.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I listen to it too.
I listen to it in my blue chair in my living room.
There you go.
Usually the cat's in my lap.
All right. Any final thoughts?
On this one?
Yeah.
No. That's about it on that one.
Okay. My final thoughts are, I like it. I think it's great. And you know what? Even if it's not true, which I fully and everything in me believes it is true because I absolutely believe in stuff after death, but it's making people's lives better and great.
Okay.
I'm all for that.
I did like the idea that if you have a near-death experience, those memories of whatever that experience were are more vivid than your memories of things that happen in real life, than, dreams that you've had or thoughts that you've had like that. I find that very thought-provoking, and I don't know that I have an answer yet on how I feel about it, but it definitely makes me want to think about it a bit more.
I love it. I think it's so beautiful. I think life is so precious, and there's so much we don't know. And it's all so beautiful. I really do.
Okay.
I listen to I go through phases where I just listen to work and I just cry with happiness for these people that they're so happy
You're Abby's daughter.
having these experiences and experiencing that joy. Like, that's so beautiful. I'm so happy for them. For sure.